Madness Unspoken.
Believe me, if I started murdering people, there'd be none of you left.
You can tell a lot about a killer by how they talk when the killing stops. Some blame their childhood. Some say the devil made them do it. And some just sit there, relaxed, like it's a normal day. We're diving into the darkest interviews ever filmed. The moments where murderers stopped hiding and started explaining. You'll hear their words, the tone, the eyes, the stillness between their sentences. From the painted smile of John Wayne Gacy to Ted Bundy's charm, Jeffrey Dahmer's calm, and the rage behind Richard Ramirez. You ever looked a killer in the eyes and felt nothing? No fear, no anger, just the quiet realization that they're not pretending. Some killers confess with pride. Others smile while they lie. In front of the camera, they don't see victims. They see an audience. These are the interviews that shouldn't exist. The ones that make you feel something deep and wrong inside. Because sometimes it's not what they say that haunts you. It's how calm they sound while saying it. John Wayne Gacy. To his neighbors, he was the funny guy, the one who threw block parties, ran a business, dressed up as a clown for kids. But underneath that painted smile lived something that didn't laugh.
Shoelaces, huh? You're in trouble now.
Yeah, right.
Aren't you afraid sitting that close to me? What the hell? Oh, this is too long.
In one interview, Gacy leaned forward and picked up a shoelace. He said, "You turn it like this, and it tightens." It was the exact same knot police had found on his victims. Gacy killed more than 30 young men and buried most of them beneath his own house. Yet in every interview, he spoke with the tone of a man who still thought he could talk his way out.
People don't want to know the truth and the honesty of it. If they want to be convinced or brainwashed into what they believe, then fine, then go ahead and kill me. But vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, because you will have executed somebody that didn't commit the crime.
The arrogance, the performance, the calm voice hiding chaos. That's the part people remember. Not the clown suit, not the evidence, but how ordinary he looked while describing the unimaginable. Because that's what's truly terrifying about John Wayne Gacy. Evil didn't look like a monster. It looked like a man you'd invite to your kid's birthday party, if he could fool them. How many others still do? But Gacy wasn't the only one who could wear a mask. The next man didn't need makeup. He had something stronger, charm. Ted Bundy didn't look like a killer. He looked like someone you'd trust. When Bundy gave interviews, it wasn't confession, it was theater. He smiled, joked, and played the role of the falsely accused man.
You feel that everything will turn out all right, that you are innocent. Do you still feel that?
Yeah, more than ever.
A victim of circumstance. He knew exactly how to hold eye contact, when to laugh, how to make people forget who he really was. In one early interview, he grins and says,
"I'm not guilty." Does that include the time I stole a comic book when I was 5 years old?
Bundy didn't just want to kill. He wanted to be believed. He wanted to shape the narrative, to prove that his charm could override the horror of his crimes. By the end, even on death row, he was still performing. Sitting across from conservative interviewer James Dobson, he tried to shift blame again.
That's true. Ted, how did it happen? Take me back. What are the antecedents of the behavior that we've seen?
Kinds of pornography. Again, I'm talking from personal experience. Hard, real personal experience. The most damaging kinds of pornography are those that involve violence.
Bundy proved something about human nature. Evil doesn't always scream. Sometimes it's polite. It shakes your hand. It tells you what you want to hear. And the most disturbing part, you believe it. But what if evil didn't hide behind charm? What if it celebrated it? Our next killer didn't just speak darkness. He worshipped it. Richard Ramirez didn't pretend to be good. He didn't fake a smile. He didn't hide behind lies. He looked straight into the camera and said, "I am beyond good and evil." The world called him the Night Stalker, a man who broke into homes across California in the 1980s, leaving behind chaos, blood, and fear so raw that whole cities stopped sleeping. But when you watch his interviews, you see something far worse than violence.
Do you admit to being evil, Richard?
We are all evil in some form or another, are we not?
You see peace, a man completely comfortable with what he'd become. He told one reporter, "Serial killers do on a small scale what governments do on a large one." He said it calmly, as if murder was logic, not madness. Just a man who saw evil, not as a curse, but as a purpose. And when the guards led him away, he smiled again, a small, knowing grin that said more than words ever could. Because unlike most killers, Richard Ramirez didn't run from the dark. He became it. But what happens when evil starts to sound smart? When it speaks like logic, not lunacy? If you didn't know who he was, you'd think Edmund Kemper was a professor. Articulate, calm, intelligent. But listen a little longer.
Everything went towards killing him, and I didn't. But I'm saying, wow, it's uncanny. It was almost like it was meant to be that way. And I said, wow, this gotta stop.
Kemper killed his grandparents when he was 15. Later, he murdered 6 young women, then his own mother. And yet, when you hear him talk, it's like he's giving a lecture on cause and effect. He sits there, voice steady, describing murder the way someone else might describe a car accident. No tremor, no hesitation, just detail.
And if it had been in a city, I would have been a mass murderer at age 15. I would have killed until they gunned me down. I wouldn't have been able to reason my way out of it.
He even joked once, putting on glasses, looking into the camera, and asking, "Would you get in the car with this man?" That's what made Kemper different. He wasn't trying to convince you he was innocent. He was trying to make you understand him. And somehow, that makes him even more dangerous. Because when he speaks, you almost do understand.
I am an American, and I killed Americans. I am a human being, and I killed human beings. And I did it in my society.
There's no rage, no madness, just truth, and the unbearable realization that monsters can be calm, intelligent, and polite.
It started with surrogates at a non-human level. Physical objects, my possessions, other people's, destruction of things that are cared about, and then destruction of things that are living on a lower level, small animals, insects, animals, and then finally people.
Kemper wasn't insanity. He was clarity without conscience. But what happens when the calm disappears completely? When the darkness becomes quiet regret? Jeffrey Dahmer didn't shout. He didn't smile. He just talked, softly, like a man explaining something he didn't quite understand himself.
And I acted on my fantasies, and that's where everything went wrong.
He talked about trying to create living zombies, about drilling into skulls and injecting acid. He described it all without emotion, like it was science, not slaughter. The motive wasn't rage. It wasn't hate. He said he wanted control.
The only motive that there ever was to completely control a person that I found physically attractive.
A person who would never leave. And that's what makes Dahmer terrifying.
Once it happened the first time, it just seemed like it had control of my life from there on in.
Maybe that's what makes him unforgettable. He wasn't the face of anger. He was the voice of emptiness. And then, there are those who never felt empty. Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, the most prolific murderer in American history. 71 confirmed victims, maybe more. Yet when you see him talk, he doesn't look like a monster. He looks like someone's neighbor. When FBI profiler Mary Ellen O'Toole interviewed him, Ridgway explained how he gained their trust.
A picture of my son, they would know I was a probably normal person.
The only thing that would be better than that would be to have your son in the car with you. That would be an incredible ruse.
That happened once.
Then he'd drive them to the river. If they were still alive when I left, he said, I'd go back later and finish the job. I killed so many women, I stopped keeping count. Charles Manson wasn't chaos. He was control disguised as madness. The 1969 Tate LaBianca murders turned his name into a myth.
You don't feel guilty at all?
There's no need to feel guilty. I haven't done anything I'm ashamed of.
The next, he's laughing, shouting, maybe I should have killed 500 people. Then maybe I would have offered society something.
Maybe I should have killed 400 or 500 people, then I would have felt better. Then when I felt like I really offered society something. You know, if I wanted to kill somebody, I'd take this book and beat you to death with it, and I wouldn't feel a thing. It'd be just like walking to the drugstore.
He made insanity sound like enlightenment. He didn't kill his victims himself. He convinced others to do it, not with violence, but with belief. And that's a different kind of evil. Because Manson showed us that the scariest monsters don't always have to touch you. Sometimes they just need to make you listen. And once you start, it's already too late.
Believe me, if I started murdering people, there'd be none of you left.
Otis Toole was chaos in human form. In his interviews, he laughed between confessions. He described setting fires, killing strangers, and eating flesh, like someone recounting a childhood prank.
What do you prefer in life? Sex or fire? Or like both?
There was no logic, no guilt, just impulse, and the twisted thrill of power. But across the world, another man told his story differently, calmly, softly. His name was Issei Sagawa.
特に胴体ってのはものすごく重いし、まずカッティング切るのも大変です。まあそれはよくホラー映画にあるようにそんなもんじゃありません。
A Japanese student in Paris who shot and devoured his classmate. During interviews, he speaks with perfect manners, his voice gentle, his words deliberate. He describes tasting flesh as if he were reviewing wine. It was like tuna, he says quietly, only softer.
だんだんなんていうかな、その食べたいっていうんじゃなくて食べなきゃいけないっていうのかな。生きたまま少しずつ切られて無駄に苦しんで死にたいです。男じゃなくて綺麗な女性に殺されたい。まあもちろんそれはファンタジーです。
Both remind us that evil wears many faces. Sometimes it laughs, sometimes it whispers, but it always remembers what it's done. With Aileen Wuornos on the eve of her execution is disturbing, for a number of reasons.
But you're okay now.
I'm okay. I'm okay. God is going to be there. Jesus Christ is going to be there. All the angels and everything. And
there are the crimes for which Wuornos was convicted, but there are also the stories. Aileen tells about her treatment in prison.
They had the intercom on in the room, and they kept lying that it wasn't on, and they were using sonic pressure on my head since 1997.
Her accusations of sonic torment and food tampering speak to her paranoia and mental state. The camera is chilling, and the audience can only stare back into her eyes as the condemned killer accuses society of, quote, railroading and, quote, sabotage.
2019, a rock's supposed to hit you anyhow. You're all going to get nuked.
The line between fascination and fear It's thinner than we like to believe. This was Madness Unspoken. There are more stories buried in the dark.